I'm going to do something to Joe Frazier that might be illegal. My lawyers told me to bring a bail bondsman to get me out of jail. They might put my tail in jail and get me out on bail after what I do to Joe Frazier.
You could not ignore Muhammad Ali. He was very special in the boxing ring. In that 20 square foot canvas space, he captured not just a world title here and there, he captured the world.
Ali is, of course, known as a great boxer, but his significance as a public figure transcends that by quite a long distance. It stretches into race, to foreign policy, to issues of independence and war.
Muhammad Ali was born Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr. in 1942 in Louisville, Kentucky, into what was then a fairly racist part of the United States. He was always an interesting child, someone who expressed himself loudly. He got into a fight famously with some guys in the street. They took his bike. He went to a local police officer, and the police officer happened to be a boxing coach and introduced him to the sport when he was about 11 or 12 years of age. And it was a loud journey from the very start. Lots of boasts, lots of predictions, lots of poems, and lots of knockouts and wins and spectacular performances.
He emerges as the Olympic champion in 1960. That's the year when 4 young black men walk into a Woolworths in Greensboro, North Carolina, and take a stand by taking a seat in a whites-only counter. And that starts a decade of civil rights activism. And then globally, at a time when large numbers of countries all around the world are shaking off the shackles of colonialism and seeking their independence, Ali really rides those two waves. This is a moment when Black America and the rest of the black and brown world are having the same conversation. How do we get the vote? How do we get equality?
In February 1964, Cassius Clay fought Sonny Liston for the world heavyweight title. Liston withdrew from the contest in the 7th round with a shoulder injury that some believed and some didn't believe, and then the rematch, he was stopped in the 1st round by what was described as a phantom punch, but close examination of that shows that maybe that wasn't so. What was probably certain was that Liston was not really up for going the full distance in that fight.
I'm in office now, I'm the heavyweight champion of the world, and I don't have to talk no more and say I'm the greatest because people tell me I'm the greatest.
How long do you expect to stay heavyweight champion?
Well, I'll say this. I really believe this is not campaign talk, this is for real. I don't believe that the man to beat me haven't been born yet.
He was no longer the owner of a slave name, Cassius Marcellus Clay. It was the same name as his father and the same name historically of the slave owner. The new man was Muhammad Ali, and Ali was now in the Nation of Islam.
You can't underestimate what a transgressive act that is. He's the best known sportsman in the world, and when he joins the Nation of Islam, a militant black organization that wants to separate from America and have black people have their own land, that's not even interested in integration, he's effectively saying, I can have everything. As the world champion, I can have everything, I can have anything that America has to offer, and I don't want any of it. What I want is my freedom as a black man in this country and in the world.
Ali now had the title. He was recognized legitimately as the world champion, and he would take the title all over the place to defend it.
I'm planning to reveal the round and the minute, and I would tell you the second if I knew how long it would take the referee to get from this position to start out. You ought to make me laugh.
He had something special. He had a personality that transcended his sport, and he elevated boxing from a very early time to something else, something at that period that the world was not quite ready for, but soon became used to. Ali became part of everyone's life. He was the most famous person in the world. There was no two ways about that. There was going to be a time limit to this. It wasn't going to be an untrammeled progress to the end of his career. And after he fought Zora Folley in March of 1967, his entire world changed.
He refuses the draft. They strip him of his title. And that sends an incredible message around the world. You would have to imagine Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods identifying with the Iraqi resistance, or posing for photo shoots with Fidel Castro to understand the enormity of what Ali does there, which he says, not only do I not want anything you have, I'm actually against what you're doing right now. I don't like the direction that this country's going in. And he has an explicit racial identification against white supremacy. He says, no Viet Cong ever called me nigger. People of color around the world should resist white supremacy, imperialism, colonialism. This is in a period where African Americans have only just secured the vote. He gives up the one thing, not only that he can do, but that he can do brilliantly for his principles. He doesn't know how the Vietnam War is going to turn out. He doesn't know how American politics is going to unravel. He can't predict the Watergate scandal and Nixon and all of the ways in which Vietnam and those associated with it become an embarrassment to American foreign policy. He really gives up everything.
He was away from the ring for quite a long time, 3.5 years, and when he came back, very few people thought that we'd get the same Ali we had beforehand. And the fact that we got a different version of Ali is testimony to the man's incredible ability to reinvent himself. He was still a great boxer, a great inventive thinker in the ring, but now he was just a little bit slower. And the man who was going to take advantage of that was Joe Frazier.
I predict the fight wouldn't go the distance.
Oh, it won't
I'll
go the
stop
distance.
him. Stop me.
You.
How soon? What round? Look,
Don't let him obligate
1
you.
to
He
10.
agitated.
You be
He
out there.
agitated.
I want to bet you be out there.
It was an amazing fight. It lived up to the billing, the fight of the century. And Frazier knocked him down towards the end of the fight, and everyone was as shocked as Ali was. After that defeat, his first in his professional career, Ali entered into a period of uncertainty. He was now not exactly damaged goods, but he was not infallible. And yet still he would not be deterred, and he was determined to get back to the very top. Joe Frazier, meanwhile, had lost his title to another great icon of boxing, George Foreman.
Who can't fight a lick, can't throw a left jab. It's a terrible. Don't believe it? Go get the films. I'll go show them to you now.
When they fought in Kinshasa, the Rumble in the Jungle, in 1974, Ali ridiculed Foreman before the fight and then humiliated him during the fight, stopping him in the 8th round, and he was back. After he beat Foreman, Ali was headed for a remarkable fight. It was called the Thriller in Manila.
This might shock and amaze you, but I will destroy Joe Frazier. Some people say, you better watch Joe Frazier, he's awful strong. I said, tell him to try band roll on.
It was an incredible fight. It ebbed and flowed all the way through. In the minute break between the 14th and the 15th, both men sat on their stools, exhausted. They'd given everything. Ali was prepared to quit. Angelo Dundee was in Ali's corner, and someone pointed out to him that across the ring, on his stool, Joe Frazier was quitting. That fight did Ali irreparable damage. It's hard to say when his Parkinson's syndrome really kicked in, but none of the fights he had after 1975 until he finished in 1981 will have done him much good. He should have stopped in 1975, and it would have been a better end. But, you know, you can't rewrite history. And Ali's history rambled on a bit. And like so many great fighters, his last fight against Trevor Berbick, the Jamaican-Canadian, in the Bahamas in 1981, was a defeat. 3 years after he stopped boxing, Ali was diagnosed with Parkinson's syndrome. It's a measure of Ali's celebrity, his fame, that he came back from a period of anonymity in 1996 to light the flame at the Atlanta Olympics. 4 years later, he was named Sportsman of the Century and came to London to receive the award. He was at the 2012 Olympics again, and a considerably diminished figure. But even in his palsied state, he still had the gift to entertain.
Give us the fist. Hey!
I'm guessing that he would want to be remembered as a great boxer who made a stand. And possibly he would want to be remembered as someone who shone a light. He showed people, look, it's possible to be famous and to have principles. You can come back. It's possible.
He was an entertainer. He was a magician. He was a boxer. He was a humanitarian. He was a person, for all his faults, that you could not dislike. And the thing about the man with two names is there was only one of him, and there will never be anyone like him again.